Have you ever wondered what it feels like when heaven suddenly feels very close to earth, when an ordinary human being is invited into an extraordinary moment with God? Imagine living in a world full of noise, fear, injustice, and confusion, and then suddenly, a voice rises above it all. A voice that doesn't just warn, but gives hope. A voice that doesn't just speak of judgment, but also of mercy. That voice belonged to a man named Isaiah. And today, I want to take you on an unforgettable journey into one of the most powerful and emotional stories in the entire Bible, the incredible story of Isaiah, the prophet of hope and vision. Now listen carefully, because this is not just an old story from the past. This is a story about calling, fear, courage, and a God who never gives up on his people. Isaiah lived in a time when everything seemed to be falling apart. Nations were rising and collapsing. Kings were making bad decisions. The rich were getting richer, the poor were being crushed, and people had forgotten what it meant to walk humbly with God. Does that sound familiar? In many ways, Isaiah's world looks a lot like ours today. Isaiah was born in Jerusalem, the heart of Judah. He grew up surrounded by religious traditions, temple rituals, and powerful leaders. But behind the beauty of the city, something was deeply wrong. People were worshipping God with their lips, but their hearts were far away. They brought offerings to the temple, but outside those temple walls, they were full of greed, injustice, and pride. God saw everything. And God was about to speak. One day, something happened that changed Isaiah's life forever. The Bible tells us that in the year King Uzziah died, Isaiah had a vision. Not a dream. Not an imagination. A real, overwhelming vision of the Lord himself. Isaiah saw the Lord seated on a throne, high and lifted up. The hem of his robe filled the temple. Angels called seraphim were flying above him, calling out to one another, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, the whole earth is full of his glory." Can you imagine that moment? The ground shaking. The air filled with God's presence. The sound of holiness echoing everywhere. For the first time, Isaiah didn't see the problems of his nation, he saw the perfection of God. And suddenly, Isaiah became painfully aware of himself. He cried out, "Woe to me! I am ruined! For I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips." This is so important to understand. When we truly see God, we also see ourselves clearly. Isaiah wasn't proud. He wasn't confident. He was broken. He knew he wasn't worthy. But God didn't destroy Isaiah. God cleansed him. One of the seraphim flew to him with a burning coal from the altar and touched Isaiah's lips. "See," the angel said, "this has touched your lips, your guilt is taken away and your sin is atoned for." And then came the moment that would define Isaiah's entire life. God asked a question that still echoes through history, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" Isaiah didn't hesitate. He didn't ask for safety. He didn't ask for comfort. With a trembling but willing heart, Isaiah replied, "Here am I, send me." From that moment on, Isaiah became God's messenger. But let me tell you something very honest, this calling was not easy. God didn't promise Isaiah popularity. God didn't promise success in human terms. In fact, Isaiah was told that many people would not listen. Many hearts would be hardened. Many would reject his message. Yet Isaiah obeyed. Isaiah's mission was clear, and to speak God's truth to a rebellious nation. He warned Judah that their injustice, corruption, and false worship would lead to destruction. He spoke boldly against leaders who trusted in political alliances instead of trusting God. He cried out against those who crushed the poor and ignored the needy. Isaiah's words were sharp, powerful, and sometimes uncomfortable. But they were always spoken from a heart that loved God and cared deeply for the people. And yet, Isaiah was not only a prophet of judgment. This is what makes him so special. In the middle of warnings, Isaiah spoke hope. In the middle of darkness, Isaiah spoke light. He reminded the people that God was not finished with them. Even when judgment would come, restoration would follow. Even when the nation would be broken, God would heal. Isaiah spoke about a future king unlike any other. A king who would not rule with arrogance or cruelty, but with justice and righteousness. For to us a child is born, Isaiah declared, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. He described this child as Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. These words weren't just poetry. They were promises. Promises of a Messiah who would bring true peace. Imagine hearing these words for the first time, in a world filled with war and fear. Isaiah was painting a picture of hope that reached far beyond his own lifetime. He spoke of a suffering servant who would carry the pain of the people. One who would be pierced for our transgressions and crushed for our iniquities. Isaiah saw a future where suffering would lead to salvation. But Isaiah also lived the pain of rejection. People mocked him. Leaders ignored him. Some believed his words were too harsh. Others thought his hope was unrealistic. Still, Isaiah continued to speak. Year after year. King after king. Through political chaos and spiritual decline, Isaiah remained faithful. What gives a man that kind of courage? It was the vision. Isaiah never forgot what he saw in the temple. He never forgot the holiness of God. He never forgot the moment his sin was forgiven. That encounter shaped everything he did. And here's the beautiful truth for us today. Isaiah's story reminds us that God still calls ordinary people to do extraordinary things. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing. God is still asking the same question today, whom shall I send? Isaiah's life teaches us that hope is not ignoring reality. Hope is trusting God even when reality looks painful. Vision is not just seeing what is, it's believing in what God promises will be. And as we continue this journey, we are going to see how Isaiah's message of hope grows even stronger. We are going to see how his words reach far into the future, pointing clearly to God's plan of salvation. And trust me, what comes next is even more powerful. Isaiah ki was surf uski zamani tak midud nahi thai. Jays wakt guzada gaya, uski alfaz or geri hotai gay, or unka matlab or zayada roshan hoda chalagaya. Isaiah ne surf apni logon ka hul bayan nahi kia, us ne future ko bideka. Isa future jodad sabara tha, leaking umid sabi chamak raha tha. Jab juda ke log da or bachani minji rohi tai. Isaiah unhain yard dalada tha ke unka kuda surf sazadin walanahi, balke bashain wala bihai. Aswak dunia ke powerful empire yupa uthrahi tai. Assyria ek kofnuk tarkat benchuki thai. Sher girohi tai, or logsok rohi tai ke shayad kuda ne unhain chor dia hai. Leaking Isaiah ba ye keda raha ke kuda apni logon ko kabi nahi choda. Han, unki galtian ke natij hotai hain, leaking kuda ki mohabit un natijan sibi zayada badi hodi hai. Isaiah ne ek bat bohat wazir tor pa ki di, mazla surf dushman nations ka nahi hai, mazla dul ka hai. Log ibadat ka rohi tai, leaking unki zindagian insaf sakali thin. Wo rosa rakta tai, leaking garib ko bul jait tai. Wo duakadi tai, leaking zolm sabaz nahi ate tai. Isaiah ne kaha ke kuda ko surf rasum nahi chahiain, use dul chahie. Isadul jo tute hu logon ke ilia didakta ho. Orfo Isaiah ne apni sab sageri or hirat anjas bart keni shuru ki. Us ne ek a sharks ka zikakia jo kud badsha nahi hoga, leaking badshahon sa zayada takadwa hoga. Ek isa sharks jo talwa ke bagher jite gar ek isa sharks jo apni kwawatsa nahi. Balke apni kobani sa dunia ko badle gar Isaiah ne use, kuda ka banda kaha, the servant of the Lord. Ye banda kubsurat dikne wala nahi hoga. Log use nazar andaz kardanga. Wodad saguzre ga logus parhans ge, us par thukain ge, or use zalil karain ge. Leaking Isaiah ne kaha ke wo banda hama gamathe ga, hama dad apni yupa lagar wo hamari katan ke liazakmi hoga. Hamari bad Korean ke liya kutla jagar or uski ma saham shifa payan ge. Sochya, yer alfaz uswakt boli ja rohi tai jab log surf to kadwa mashakeo chate tai. Leaking Isaiah ek az mashakei bad karaha tha jo takt pa nahi, balke dard ke raste se guzre ga ye bat bohat logon ke liya samujna mushkil thai. Leaking ye kuda ka plan tha. Ek isa plan jo insani sok se bohat age tha. Isaiah ne ye bi deka ke ek din kuda sab kuch nea ka dega. Wo din jab talwarain hel banja yenji. Jab jang nahi hodi. Jab battery korf ke baghair kalanch. Jab bed or shiik sath rahench. Isaiah ne aman ka isa manza deka jo junia ne kabi nahi deka tha. Ye surf ek kwab nahi tha, ye kuda ka wada tha. Leaking is umid ke sath, Isaiah ne logon ko hoshia bikia. As ne kaha ke aga tum apni sid pa kaim rahay, aga tum galat ko galat man enisa in ka kade rahay, to tum hein natij bugatne pa in ge. As ne sharon ke gone ki bat ki. Kade ki bat ki. Jailer watan hone ki bat ki. Ye batin sun ka log gabrajate tai. Leaking wakt ne sabat ka dia ke Isaiah jut nahi bol raha tha. Jab Assyria ne Israel ko taba ka dia, or bard mine Babylon ne Judah ko kade mine lalia, tab bi Isaiah ke alphaz sindatai. Log yard kade tai ke nabi ne pali hi ye sab kaha tha. Leaking isi kade ke and heron mine, Isaiah ki umid bari batin bi yard adi thin. Wo batin jo kedi thin ke ye anjum nahi hi. Ye surf ek mahala hi. Isaiah ne kaha tha ke kuda apni logon ko fur se jama karega. Wo on hein dor se wapas laiga. Wo on ki zakman pa maham rakaga. Wo on hein neadal dega. Isadal jo patha ke nahi, balke gosht ke hoga, sinda, masuz kanwala, mohabbat se barahua. Or sab se kubsurat bat ye hi ke Isaiah ne surf kom ke ilia nahi, puri dunia ke ilia umid ki bat ki. As ne kaha ke kuda ki roshni surf Israel tak midud nahi rahiji. Ye roshni kom tak ponchegi. And heron mine ren wale log roshni de kench. Jo log umid ko chiki hain, unhain nei zindagi malaji. Isaiah ke alphaz wakt ke sath or zayada to kadwa hotai gay. Jab log unhain dobra pate, to unhain masuz hoda ke ye surfa samani ke ilia nahi tai. Ye ha zamani ke ilia tai. Haras sharks ke ilia jo tu chika ho. Haras sharks ke ilia jo gonna ke boji ke niche daba ho. Haras sharks ke ilia jo andare mine roshni dund raha ho. Isaiah could shayad apni zindagi mine yer sab pora hoda hua na deksoka. Leaking us ne jo deka, us pa yakin raka. Us ne apni awaz kuda ke hath mine de di. Or sudion bard b, uski awaz hum tak ponchdi hi. Yer awaz kedi hi ke kuda ubi bikam ka raha hi. Ubi bi bakada hi. Ubi bi umid dida hi. Or jab hum yer sab sante hain, to sawal surf ye nahi hoda ke Isaiah korn tha. Asal sawal ye hoda hi ke hum kia sante hain? Kia hum surf alphaz sante hain, y kuda ki puka bi masuz kate hain? Kia hum surf kahani dekrahe hain, y apni zindagi kobs roshni mine dekrahe hain? Kyun ke Isaiah ki kahani yahin kadam nahi hodi. Uska pagam ek az more pa ja ka rukta hi jahan se kuda kasab se barakam shuru hoda hi. Or isilia, jo akri bat hum sana ja rohi hain, wo sab se zayadadal ko chulin wali hi. Wo bat jo andre ko hamisha ke liya roshni mine badal dedi hi. Or ab hum Isaiah ki kahani ke us hisa pa age hain jahan alphaz surf suanai nahi dit, balke dal ke and a yuda jade hain. Kyun ke jo kuch Isaiah ne deka tha, jo kuch us ne kaha tha, wo surf uski zamani ke liya nahi tha. Wo kuda ki kahani ke hisa tha, eg azi kahani jo sudion siliki ja rahithai, or jo bi jari hi. Isaiah ne ek az wakt minawaz utai jab log sok chiki tai ke sab kuch kadam ho gaya hi. Share gear chiki tai. Log kade mine tai. Mundia tu chika tha. Or furbi, Isaiah ke alphaz ne kaha ke ye en nahi hi. Ye surf ek pause hai. Kuda ki kahani yahan rukti nahi. Or fur sadiyan guzri. Log intizar kate rahay. Un alfaz ka intizar jo sak ho ka dikayan. As masha ka intizar jo aya or sab kuch badalda. Or fur, bilkul usi terra jays Isaiah eni deka tha, Rushni andare mine chamakudi. Ek bachcha paida hua. Garib gar mine. Koi shahi mahal nahi. Koi taj nahi. Leaking us bakche ke sath kuda ke wadapaida hua. Wo bachcha jis ke bear mine Isaiah eni kaha tha ke wo wonderful counselor hoga, mighty God hoga, Prince of Peace hoga. Uski zindagi eni sabat ka dia ke yer alfaz koli batin nahi thane. Asni bemeron ko shifa di. Tute hu dilan ko jura. Gunagaran ko maf kia. Or bilkul usi terra jays Isaiah eni kaha tha, logon eni use thukradia. As pa hansi gay. Use zalil kia gaya. Use dard siguzana para. Leaking wo chup raha. Kyunke wo hamara dard yutha raha tha. Isaiah eni kaha tha ke kuda ke banda kasai ke samni kamosh bed ke terra hoga. Or yahi hua. Asni apni jan de di, leaking kahani yahin kadam nahi hui. Kyunke mort ke bad bikuda ke wada zindaraha. Kueba kali hui. Zindagi jeet gayi. Umid ha nahi mani. Or is terra Isaiah ki vision puri hui. Wo vision jo keta tha ke andare mine ren wale rushni de kench. Wo rushni surf ek kom ke liya nahi thai. Wo puri dunia ke liya thai. Ahb, jab koidal boji se baraho, jab koi sharks could ko tanho masuz kya, Isaiah ki was hamanya daladi hai ke kuda karib hai. Isaiah ki kahani hamanya sakadi hai ke kuda surf bolta nahi, wo santa bi hai. Wo surf sazanahi dita, wo bakata bi hai. Wo surf totanahi, wo fur sajorda bi hai. Or sab sakub surat bat ye hai ke wo ahb logon ko bula raha hai. Bilkul usi terra jesus eni Isaiah ko bulaya tha. Ahb kuda puchta hai, main kisi bajun? Or ahb koi dulse ke sakta hai, yahan hun main. Muj hay baj. Shayad hum nabi hun, shayad humari awaz sharon tak na perhanche. Leaking humari zindagi, humari mohabbat, humari remat, yer sab kuda ka pagam ben sakte hain. Isaiah ki kahani humain yer biyad daladi hai ke umid kabi judi nahi hodi. Umid surf intizar ka nam nahi, umid yakin ka nam hai. Yakin ka kuda jo keta hai, wo pora kata hai. Chahe wakt lag jay. Chahe rasta mushkil ho. Or jab hum apni zindagi mine andira masuz kate hain, jab lagta hai ke dunia tugrahi hai, tab Isaiah ki kahani hamanya daladi hai ke kuda abi bi taj pa baitha hai. Abi bi kudrat rakta hai. Abi bi muhabbat kata hai. Is kahani ka anjam yen nahi ke sab masail foran kadam ho jate hain. Is kahani ka anjam ye hai ke hum akle nahi hotai. Kuda hama sath hoda hai. Ha ansu mine. Ha dad mine. Ha umid mine. Or shayad isaiah Isaiah ki kahani ahb zinda hai. Kyunke ye surf ek nabi ki kahani nahi hai. Ye hum sab ki kahani hai. Tute hu logon ki kahani. Umid dun ne walan ki kahani. Rushni ki tarif chalne walan ki kahani. Tojab AAP is video ke and parponchine, shayad AAP surf ek kahani dek ka enayat hain. Shayad AAP ke dulmine bi ekawazuth. Awaz jo kedi ho ke andira hamisha ke liya nahi hoda. Ke kuda ke wada kabi fail nahi hoda. Ke roshni zarawa adi hai. Or jab bi zindagi ke shia mine AAP kud ke oga masuz kerain, Isaiah ke awaz ke o yad rakna. Wo awaz jo kedi hai, utho, roshan ho jao, kyunke teri roshni a chuki hai. Ye roshni ahb chamak rihi hai. Or ye kahani ahb chal rihi hai.